tonight to this webinar, part two, going over the Accordance and the Heritage of Faith collection. I'm Richard Perry, and I'm going to be taking you through this tonight. A couple things that I wanted to start off with. That make sure if you got the video from last week that if you feel like sharing it, feel free to share it with others. Feel free to share the Heritage of Faith collection, which is free only for a couple more days. So it's a great collection, and it's well worth it free. Linda has put some PDFs into the handout section. We're going to go through a little bit tonight on the Apostolic Fathers and the early Church Fathers, and what's the difference and what kind of things did they write. We're going to look at some of the tools within Accordance tonight too, and how they are helpful for different things. We're going to look at the Bible window and do a few things with our searches that are a little bit different than just a Boolean search, which is a search for and or not. We're going to look at some of the books and the resources like the dictionaries, the commentaries, and other things for you to be aware of what they do. Then we're going to create a couple things. We're going to create a couple workspaces. And what's a workspace? And a workspace is like a document. You know, if you're in Microsoft Word, you can have multiple documents going at one time. Well, in Accordance, you can have multiple workspaces going at one time. The only difference between Accordance and Word is that the workspaces in Accordance can relate to one another. They can connect with one another to provide information on a given topic or a reference. So that's really pretty exciting. One other thing that I want to tell you about, you're going to see when you're doing the pull down menu, is a thing called auto session. And we're going to take a look at what the sessions are. What is a session? So we're going to cover a bit of ground tonight, and then I want to also finish up with looking at this web browser. I created a user tool for web browsing, and are going to make that available with a link, and I'll show you what it looks like, how it works, and you'll be able to use it and access it if you desire to do so. So let's get started tonight. I hope you all can see my screen. This is a very simple screen. I just have the book of Genesis open here. And I want to just show you, even with just a Bible, just an English Bible, you can get some pretty amazing results with a couple of just really simple searches. The first one I want to do is like a word count search. And so with this program, I can go to any book of the Bible, and I can do a special search to highlight every word in that particular book. And then it counts it how many times that word is used, and it gives me a graph of it. So this way I can determine what are the key words possibly within that book. So let's take a look at that and how to set that up. Let me say that I wanted to study the book of Mark. Well, I can go to the book of Mark. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to type in Mark. And now, oops, I got to go to verse. Now I'm in the book of Mark. How many words are in the book of Mark? What does Mark highlight? How would I search through the book of Mark for every word in here? Well, to do that, I have to do a little bit of prep. And I like this. And if you have time, you can go through and you can set up all different types of criteria for searching. But let's say I only want to search the book of Mark. I'm going to go over here to this little plus sign, and it's going to add a search condition, a range. And I now have this range here, and I can go here and I can say, right now I'm searching all text. So if I search for the word love or faith or grace, it would search throughout the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation. But I want to just search in the book of Mark. So I'm going to click here, and I see that I have Mark. So I'm going to do a different book. I want to show you how to create this. So I want to create for the book of Luke. So to do that, I go down here to define range. It's very simple. Click on define range, and we're going to click on new. And it's going to say, what is the name of this? I'm going to say Luke, Luke. And now we have to define the range. Well, it's just the Gospel of Luke. So Luke, that's all I have to do. I can verify it. It says, yeah, that's fine. I can update it. And now Luke is here, but I don't want it under law. I want it Matthew, Mark, Luke. So I want it between Mark and Luke. So it's highlighted, and I can now move it down by using the down button, and I can position it where I want it to be in my range. So you can go through basically here and define like the synoptic gospels, which is Matthew, Mark, and Luke, or you can define certain books that were written maybe by Ezra, like Ezra and Nehemiah, or you want to compare Isaiah and Jeremiah. So you can create a range however you want to do it. It could be a whole book. It could be a section like the poetry section, or the prophets like I have here, or the wisdom. So however you want to create a range, you can do that. And then after you have it all done, we're just going to close out on this. And I'm going to save it. And so I should have now ability to choose Mark, and there it is. And so I'm going to go back to words, and an asterisk means everything. When you type an asterisk in, it means everything. So I'm going to type an asterisk in to the bar here, and it says that I'm searching through Mark for every word in the book of Mark. Now, when I hit return, you notice how all of the words turn red, and it tells me over on the far right that there are 14,351 words in the book of Mark in the ESV translation. So that's nice, but now what can I do with that? Well, what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go up to my little counter here, and I'm going to go down to a bar chart. Now you can do all sorts of things, but when you have every word, you want to sort of limit it. So I'm going to just do a bar chart. If you did a single word like faith or love, you would want to know how many times that word is found in the book of Mark. And you could do a concordance search and say, here are the verses that deal with love. But since I have every word highlighted, I'm going to do a bar chart, and it's going to give me a bar chart with all of the Greek words that are found in the book of Mark. Well, I may not understand Greek, so I'm going to move this over so we have more space. The nice thing within the program is you can convert the Greek words. I know that's God, theos, but I can convert that from a key number to a word. Now I'll transfer that from Greek into English, and I can go through here and I can take a look to see what words are most used within that particular book. Jesus, and let me see, I've got a thing in my way here, but I can go through here, God, against, son, herd, house, immediately, sayings. And where that really disciples is really big within the book of Luke. So now if I had a Greek text, guess what I could do? I could have it convert only the nouns in the book of Mark. So I would get only the major words that are found in the book of Mark. But we don't have that within the Heritage of Faith collection. That's okay. This does still pretty good. And right from here, I could leave that there, and I could go, let's say I want to now go into the book of Romans. I could go to Romans. I have the asterisk there. I hit enter. And now I can go here. I go back to my bar chart, and I go over here and I switch over to Word. And you can see sin, righteousness, flesh, Gentiles, law. These are all major words that are found sort of as a theme throughout that book. So that's one thing you can do, is to create a range, do a search for every word in that, and then look at a bar chart, change it to English, and see what maybe would be key words within that particular book. Another thing that I like to do, I'm going to go back and I'm going to close this off. We're going to go back into the Bible, is a thing called a period. If you put a period in the search bar and you tell it to search for something, it will find any character that's found within the text after the period. So if I wanted to find every question, I would put a question mark, period, question, and now since I'm searching the entire Bible, I want to find all the questions that are listed in the ESV translation. So this is how I set it up, and I hit return, and it finds 3,130 questions within the ESV. Now, my question would be, in this case, what book of the Bible has more questions in it than any other book per capita? In other words, what book has more questions in it when you compare all the words within that book, and what percentage of that book would have questions? So to do that, I'm going to go to my analysis, and I'm going to go to my hit graph. And in the hit graph, you can make it thicker, and you're going to find out that it's the book of Job. I'm sure that you go, oh, that makes sense. Has more questions in it than any other book. So it's sort of fun to be able to do this. And if you're teaching a class or something, maybe you want to find all the questions that have that. And I'm going to use a Boolean search. I'm going to put a space there, and I'm going to type the letter A, and up comes these commands. If I hit an O, I could get a search for or if I hit an N, I'd get a search for not. I want to find any question that has a question mark and Jesus. So what do you think it's going to find? It's going to find all the questions that either were asked of Jesus or that Jesus asked. So if I hit enter, but Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, why do you think evil in your hearts? And look at all this. If you were to do a study on the questions that Jesus asked or was asked of him, this is sort of a unique way to do a study. And we find that there are 267 occurrences of question marks that relate to a question with Jesus. So I just wanted to show you those couple things that you can do within the Bible. Now, to get back to where I was, I'm going to go back to my verses. I'm going to just hit return, and it takes me back to Genesis, and everything's clean slate, and I can start to do anything I want. I can search for a word or anything. One thing I want to draw your attention to is up here is the word search. And so if we go up here to search, most of the time a Boolean search is something like and, or, not, or we have these other ones. But if you see the letter A for and, O for or N for not, you don't have to go up to the search and come down here. Again, I could go life, L-I-F-E space, and then put an A, I'd get the and then death. So you don't have to go and do anything to find that and or to type it in or to go up here and click it in from here. You can do it right from the address bar. So now let's take a look at some of the books within the library, and we're going to go through that fairly quick. One thing is that I'm going to open up the library, and like we talked about last week, we have our Bibles. And remember from last week, I said in your library, you want to grab a book and you want to move it around. You can left click and move it up or down, and you want to put the most robust books on the top of each category, or your favorite books in the top of each category, because that comes into play when you're cycling through a window or you're doing a search. Your favorite books will come up first. So that's why I always want to do that, no matter whether you're in a Bible text or a dictionary or whatever. Now, in Bibles, we have, of course, our Bibles, but then down here, I put in classics. And so one thing I would just, you're not going to speak Greek necessarily. I don't speak Greek, but, and this is sort of a unique work to put into here. Perseus, if I open that up, the reason Perseus is here is because a lot of it is tagged with the Greek. But what is Perseus? There's an online website that has all of these Greek classics. So if I'm here and I wanted to study something like Plato, the Republic, I can click on that and I can go right to Plato, the Republic, or something like that, or Aristotle or Socrates. Now, the reason that they're included is because Greek philosophy during the days of Christ, the Greek language could capture so many different essence of time, um, space, gender, so many different things that was hard to really identify or encapsulate within just a regular language. And on top of that, the Greek philosophers were really known for their reasoning and their logic. And so a lot of influence came from the Greeks in their philosophy and logic. And a lot of the apostolic fathers and the church fathers used that to be able to debate where they were coming from, but also to, to take what they had said to say, well, you believe that there is a God because all of nature shows that there's a God. So who is this God? Well, we know who he is, and we want to identify him for you through logic and reason. And so, anyways, you have all of these incredible Aristotle and all of these different works from Greek philosophers within here. And I know that when I was in college, I had to read Plato, and I sometimes wonder when I read the Republic, boy, this Greek philosopher is so close to the truth of that there is a God in heaven that created everything. Anyway, that's that. Also, we have the apostolic fathers. They were the ones that were right underneath the apostles. You know, they were taught by Paul and Peter and John, and you have the fathers here, and through here you have the big one is Clement, and a lot of people really enjoy reading his materials and what he had to say following the second generation of the apostles. So there's a lot of great material here of what was being formed for Christianity, for what was being formed for the defense of the belief of this group that were following this man, this person, Jesus Christ, who they believed was God incarnate. And so it's interesting to read what they have to say about the Holy Spirit, what they have to say about Jesus Christ, what was going on culturally during that time. So apostolic fathers, and that's a lot of reading in there. Some of these guys didn't finish well, by the way. I'm not going to say, but their writings in here were good. But um, again, I guess it's up to the person that's reading it and if they what they believe. But some of them, over time, the further they got away from the foundational truth of the gospel and started to live kind of on their own merit and their own thinking, it you could see it reflected in their writings. And that happens even today. I think of Billy Graham, who was a great evangelist, and a guy named Frank Templeton, and they were both evangelists. They were friends. Frank Templeton was smart. He was one of the greatest evangelists, but he went a little bit different way than Billy Graham. Billy Graham took the Bible, went out into the back, and said, I don't claim to understand everything that's written in here, but I will basically believe it and live it through faith." And he became one of the greatest evangelists for Christendom. Now, Templeton went on to be a businessman, and then at the end of his life, they asked him. He was very depressed, and they said, "What do you miss?" And he says, "I miss my friend." And they said, "Billy Graham?" And he said, "No, Jesus Christ." And so he had lived a life of great success in the business world, but he sort of lost his way and the regrets that came afterwards. So anyways, there's up here in the text you'll find Perseus, and you'll find the apostolic fathers and the apologist in English, which is also quite good to read. Then down here, we have our dictionaries, and we have a couple of dictionaries here. The ISBE is a great dictionary, and I'm going to be going into that in just a bit. It covers 9,600 topics, but they're all good. The Webster's is interesting in that if I was to go to the Webster's dictionary and go to Grace, if you're a homeschooler, it's sort of fun. If I go to Grace here, it as you're getting down into the actual Oh, day of grace, act of grace. It will actually give you, let me close this out over here. It'll give you either um, a quote, or it will give you verses at how it's used. So let me try faith. So if I type in faith and go down here to faith, um, I know, Hebrews 6, 11, 6. And so I can open that right up alongside it. So you have to, yeah, it's in Roman numerals, but it now preacheth the faith which once he destroyed, children in whom is no faith. That's an interesting one. When it says no faith, that word for faith there in Deuteronomy is the word for basically they go wild and they are not stable. So in children who are not stable, they don't have a commitment to God. So, anyways, the Webster's has verses embedded in it to help you to understand that word when you're reading through it. So I thought the Webster's was sort of a fun work to go through. Going down, commentaries, we're going to take a look at them. You have two complete commentaries, Adam Clark, Jamison Foster Brown. They're older. Jamison Foster Brown is nice in that it gives you sort of a little bit of the cultural background of the book, which is always important and good to have when you're doing a study and trying to understand the context and the time frame and what was going on in that time frame when it was written. Uh, Robertson's word pictures and Vincent's are word studies in the New Testament. And Spurgeon's Treasury of David is an interesting commentary on Psalms and a few other things. So, anyways, we're going to go through them. They are classic public domain commentaries, but there's still a lot of good things you can glean from them. Greek and Hebrew lexicons, I'm going to move on. Devotionals, I just want to touch base on again that you have devotional readings that you can read through the Bible, but I like the chronological so you can sort of see what was happening in chronological order as you read through the scriptures. A big one here is under cross-reference, and that's the ESV notes. Now, the Treasure of Scripture Knowledge is a wonderful cross-referencing tool. That was one of the first paperback books I bought when I was a young Christian and had my Bible and I had my Treasury of Scripture Knowledge to get they say that the best interpretation for the scripture is the scripture, and it's where you have verses that lead to any topic you want. So if I go up here and I look at a book of Genesis chapter 1, and this is sort of nice because it gives you a little bit of an outline, and then all of these cross references that deal with what you in the beginning or God. So it's a great cross-referencing tool, but the ESV notes we're going to make use of tonight because it's really, really helpful in many ways. So don't forget that one, the ESV notes. We're going to come back to that. Preaching, there's Lincoln. These are just anecdotes. They're just sort of fun to read, almost as a devotional. He was quite not only was he a president at one time, but he had a quick sense of humor and command of the English language, and he was really good at anecdotes and quick quips to get the people to listen. One big area that I really like is theology. The Institute of here. One thing I want to just open up. So now we're going to get into the next couple of groups. I want to just show you a little bit on. Prayer, perpetual. So I mean, I could go to the top, but what these do is they go to these different divisions and sections, and let's just go to the top, and I'll just show you. Calvin, of course. Well, what's the difference between Calvin and James Arminius? Won't go into that, but in this case, a lot of the stuff that he writes, it's not. It wouldn't be what I call strict Calvinism until he gets into his overall theology. But what's sort of interesting is he'll go through these different arguments, like the knowledge of God, the Creator, and then he goes through a section, and then he goes through the wisdom and how to answer those different questions. So again, is what is it to know God? And then he goes to the sections, and then by knowing God, he goes through the arguments and the evidence for why we believe what we believe. So you're going to find that in this Heritage of Faith collection, that a lot of the works deal with reason and logic, and the influencers would look at a question from different angles. They would set up the arguments, and then they would answer it. And one thing that we have lost the ability to do, to some extent, is the ability to think outside the box, to approach something with reason and logic, and to calmly have discourse about that. So here he has objections confirmed. So again, it's sort of interesting work that deals with that. Same thing with Aquinas. It's all dealing with questions and articles of faith, and then how whether anything false can come under faith, whether the object of faith can be anything seen. So he goes through all these questions, and then objections, objections, objections. On the contrary, I answer that. A lot of times we don't know what's in these books. We go, oh, I'll never look at that book. But when you look at them and you just take a glimpse inside what's under the hood and the cover, you can find a wealth of wonderful, wonderful materials. Burkhoff's summary, same thing. It's got just a lot of things on the doctrine of God and creation, of man, the work of Christ, redemption, the church means and grace. So this is some of the stuff that was foundation that really helped people understand what was going on. Oh, I like this one, Schaeff's creeds. Now, this has a lot of creeds in it. What's a creed? Well, that's like a statement. I'm going to go down here to the Westminster. Some of this is in Latin and English. Sometimes it's on the left side in English and the right side is Latin, or German or French. All these different creeds. But I'm going to look at the Westminster Creed. It's called the Shorter Catechism, and it's got basically, I think, 107 questions in it. Like the first question is, what is the chief end of man? Answer, man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. What rule hath God given to direct us how we may glorify and enjoy him? See how that sort of follows? The word of God, which is contained in the scriptures of the Old and New Testament, is the only rule to direct us on how we may glorify and enjoy him. So it has, like I said, 107 catechisms or creeds in it, little snippets. And what I thought was interesting was, just think 200 years ago, when you had like a little schoolhouse maybe, and a teacher was teaching all these different grades, that it is said that a lot of the Puritans and people that homeschooled, their children from the ages of 4 to 6 had this thing entirely memorized. Many of them at 4 up to 6 years of age had the whole thing, the whole catechism, all 107 questions memorized. But again, it's just sort of a good thing to go through and to reaffirm what you believe yourself. So take a look at the Westminster Catechism under Schaeff's. It's excellent. The writings, we're going to get into these too. Most of these are like are sermons. So if you wanted a sermon on forgiveness, the resurrection, a sermon that dealt maybe with some chapter in the book of Romans, you can basically learn how to do searches through these works to find information. But you can type in something like faith, and it will find that's family. I guess he doesn't have. Let's try the mercies of God. Thankfulness for mercies received. So anyway, all that to say, this is on men because I just put an ME. But through here, you can find sermon after sermon after sermon from all of these great guys on just by going to the table of contents on a variety of subjects. And again, you don't have to read the whole book. Maybe you're just dealing with something like, you know, the death of death in the death of Christ, and or maybe you're dealing with something else, but or wanting to read something. Some of them are more theological. Some of them are more topic oriented. So just be aware of that. Then we get down under here. We're still underneath the writings. We get down to some of my favorites. We have the Ante-Nicene fathers. They're the ones before, I believe, 300 BC. They're just right after between the post-Nicene and the apostolic fathers. And I kind of like this because they're really good. Like you have Tertullian, Gregory, again, a lot of wonderful people. And again, if I was to type in something like grace, I can now go through here and find from the different guys, different articles where grace was included with what they were either arguing or defending or expounding on. And so you can go through that entire work. And I think that's really amazing to me to be able to do that. So there's several of those. And one of my favorites, of course, Augustine, a lot of people know who he is. But down here, the very last one of my favorite guys is Athanasius. And he has a whole section, I believe, on the treatise on the incarnation of the Word. And through this, he goes through such logical sequences that to me, it's just a fascinating read. He goes through why it was on the cross, why it was public, why it had to be the Romans, why Christ died and was dead for 3 days and had to be resurrected on the third day. So as you get down through this, he's got so many different things that deal with just a complete a defense of the crucifixion and what God had gone through and why God had to go through the crucifixion on the cross the way he did. It's called On the Incarnation of the Word, and it's Athanasius, and it's worth reading if you get a chance to go through that. Then we get down to history, and we have sketches in church history, a history of American Christians. Fox's Book of Martyrs is a wonderful book to read. Schaeff's, again, has church history that goes in sort of like a companion to his theology up above. Now in biblical studies, one thing I want you to look at is we're going to look at the outlines of the Bible books, but you have biblical training. That's Dr. Bill Mounts. He's one of the noted guys today that worked on Greek and Hebrew. The Mounts is Greek made easy for the rest of us, and he worked with Dr. Kohlenberger. But biblical training is got classes. They're built-in classes basically covering, and they have all sorts of different videos and audio and questions, and they're just sort of like classes that you can take. And some of these other ones are good as well. I think, and like I mentioned, other book, we have Getting Started with Accordance. That's the one you need if you want to just, it has videos and helps to understand how to navigate this program. Manners and Customs of the Bible is really good. So anyway, that's just a sort of a quick look at some of the books that are in there. Now let's start to put them together in a certain fashion. So let me go back up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Bible again, just my ESV. I'm going to close out my parallel window. The parallel window is very, very helpful, and it's good. And we might just teach a class on just this alone some point in time. But because I want to show you how to do get background information on a Bible book, and then we're going to create a workspace, and then we're going to look at the web browser. So I want to do that right now. So if I go back here and I go back, hit enter, go back to Genesis, I'm going to go over and I'm going to add a parallel. So here's where you can add a couple things. I can add another Bible like we talked about before, and it will show you what words, when you highlight a word in one translation, as long as it's with Strong's, it will highlight it in the other side. So darkness, and most of them are, but it is difference between the King James. Expanse should be different. Yeah, expanse, firmament. So we have two Bibles open, but if I want to get an understanding of this particular book, one way to get a good overview of a book of the Bible really quickly is to have an outline. And so I'm going to go to add parallels. And remember, I found the outline underneath reference tools and Bible studies, biblical studies, and there's an outline of the Bible. And when I open it up in this window, it stays synchronized with whatever I'm looking at. But up here, we see the creation of the heavens and the earth, the first day, the second day, the fourth day. In chapter 2, we have Adam and Eve. In chapter 6, we have Noah. In chapter 11, we start Abraham. So 11 chapters deals with everything from creation through the flood, through the Tower of Babel. But the last 40 chapters deal with a nation for God through Abraham and Isaac and Joseph. So a Bible outline gives you a good overview of what's in the Bible. When I was about 40 years ago, when I was in uh, a college group, working with a college group, we went on a retreat. And I think it's a retreat I'll never forget. And I'm telling you this because it would be a good exercise. If you are in charge of a retreat with anyone, you might try this. It was really, really an eye opener. We went on a retreat. This is before you had cell phones and before you had tablets. We had our Bibles with us, and we got into this retreat center, and there must have been about 30, 40 of us. And the speaker, we were all excited. He was a really good speaker, and we were all excited to hear him. And so he comes out to start his talk the first night, and all these guys came out with they're with masks on and in black, and they had big garbage bags, and they took all of our Bibles away. And they made sure even if we had a little pocket Bible, they took it. They took all of the Bibles away. And then they broke us into groups of like 6 or 7 people. And then we had, for the rest of the weekend, all we did was we rebuilt the Bible from what our knowledge was of it. So when you got to Genesis, it wasn't, oh well, you didn't do a spiritual summary of it. Well, it's just that man is sinful, and God prepared a way to, bring him back to redemption through Christ. No, we had to. What were the stories in the Genesis? What were the stories in Exodus? And we had to go through all the books of the Bible, and each of us contributed what we remembered of that book. What were the key people, the key events? What were the key verses that we had memorized? You know what? We all felt pretty bad because even, today, especially, we have a lot of things that we can look at, but how much of it do we really absorb into our lives so that if our Bibles were taken away, if the cell towers went down, if we didn't have access to the internet, how much of the Bible would you remember? How would you tell others about the Holy Scriptures? So it was a wonderful, wonderful exercise, and I'll never forget it. That's probably one retreat I will never, ever, ever forget. So, anyways, outlines are very important. Now, another thing that's very important, another good outline that I want to show you, but I'm not going to open it from within here because it has more information than just an outline. So, like in here, if I go to a book, Genesis, it starts right off with the bat with Genesis 1. And by the way, if you open up your instant details and you hover over the verse down below, you can see that verse. But another work that I wanted to show you is I'm going to open up, and that is the underneath cross references. It's the notes that come with the ESV translation. It's called the ESV notes. and it's going to open up in its own window. This is called a zone. So this over here is one zone, and I can move this zone around, right? And this over here is its own zone. So right now they're not talking to each other, and I could tie them so that this would be tied to this, but for now I'm not going to. I'm going to just leave it as is, and I'm going to go to a book of the Bible. So let's go here to Jonah. So I go to Jonah, and look what it tells me. I can go over here to Jonah. Let's just do that too. Oops. So here I'm in Jonah, and over here, one thing I like about the ESV notes, even though they're just notes, it gives me an introduction to the book. And then it gives me section headings, kind of like a really good outline. Section headings are what are called pericopes. And that's when you see something like Jonah flees the presence of the Lord. See, that's the pericope, it's right there. But it put them all together in an outline form without the Bible text. So as I go down through here, I get a really good overview of what that book is about. And so, and it also has cross references in there. So the ESV notes it's people just overlook it, but it's a great reference work for getting a good introduction to a book of the Bible. And I'm going to leave that one open. And the next thing I'm going to open up is a dictionary. And I can open up all the dictionaries. I'm going to open up one because of time. But I could open up the Eastons and the Smiths, and you can have them all open, and I'm going to just show you what I can do with it. But I'm going to just open this up, and I'm going to just move this. You know what? I actually want the ESV notes down here. I want the ESV on top. So if I was to type in a book of the Bible here, go to the table of contents, and let's say I wanted to look at Jonah. So I go down here to to Jonah, the book of, and now I have the book of Jonah. And a dictionary is going to give me more information about the context of the book and the summary of the book. And it'll also break it down for me, but it sort of breaks it down in paragraph format. But you know what I can do? I can go back to the table of contents, and I'm going to expand that out. And I have here sort of the outline right here in front of me by just expanding out the outline. So this is sort of nice. And let's open up another book. Let's open up a commentary. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to open up. I could open them both up. Yeah, I'll open them both up. Okay. So now, if I'm in Jamieson Fawcett Brown, how do I get to Jonah? I go to my table of contents. I go down to Jonah, and I can open it up. It gives me an introduction, and again, it gives me information about that book, sort of a brief summary about what it's, not that brief, but it's a summary of what's in the book. And then it starts the actual commentary. Adam Clark does the same thing. I go to the book, I go down to find Jonah, and it gives me a little bit of a background on the book. It might call it something different sometimes, but it does give me some stuff on it. So those are good, but this is something that I wanted to do. So just with those things that I have on my line right now, I'm going to create what I'm going to call it as a Bible book workspace, because I want to know information about any Bible book that I'm looking up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this workspace. So I can go up here to my, oh, I don't have my workspaces up here on my toolbar, do I? I'm going to customize my toolbar. And where is my workspace? Papers, timeline, atlas, workspaces. Okay. So I'm going to click on workspace, and it says add current workspace. And it's going to say, what do you want to call it? I'm going to call it Bible Book Studies. And when I hit save, this is going to change from workspace to a thing called Bible Book Studies. See? Just like that. But I'm going to do something else with it right now. So I'm going to take my ISB, and I'm going to say, ISB, you're driving the bus on any topic or on any book of the Bible. You're going to drive the bus, and all of these other ones have to follow, even though they're commentaries. They're gonna either act like dictionaries themselves, emulating this, or they're going to find information that I've required or that the ISB asked them for. So let's take a look and see what I can do here. So I'm going to change some stuff around just briefly. I'm going to move this over to here, and I'm going to move it up a bit so everything is nice and clean and organized. So there's my ESV notes. I have my Bible here. And let's see, I have Jamison ISB. Let's add another dictionary in there just for fun. So I'm going to go down here to my dictionaries, and I'm going to open up Easton's. So now there's ISB, there's Easton's. And remember, I'm going to have this guy driving these three windows. So I'm going to say to Easton's, I want you to link arms with ISB. Wherever ISB goes, I want you to go. How do I do that? Look where it says entry here. I'm going to put my cursor in there, hit the letter L, because I want to do what is called the link command. Now, when I link it, it says, who's in charge here? Ah, the ISB's in charge. Okay. So now it says the ISB's in charge. Notice the ISB doesn't have that because he's a follower. I'm going to go down to Jamison Fawcett Brown, and I'm going to turn off my table of contents, and I'm going to change this from reference to title. Commentaries were created to give you information on a Bible reference, but secondarily, they have headings, and those headings would be titles. So I'm going to say a title, and I'm going to say L for link, and I'm going to say ISB is driving the bus. I go to Adam Clark. Oops, I go to Jamison Fawcett Brown. I was in Adam Clark. I change this to titles. I hit the L, link, ISB, okay. I come over here to ESV, hit title, hit L for link, hit ISB, and okay. So now watch what happens. So say I'm over here in the Bible, and I'm looking at Acts. So I go to Acts chapter 1, and I'm looking at Acts, and I'm looking at the outline for Acts. And by the way, whenever you're in a window like this, you can expand it out full so that you can see it, and then you can recollapse it so that it's back in its position. So with any window that you see, you can expand that zone out, and then you can look at the two and you can bring it back. But let me I'm going to go to the ISB, and I'm going to say, I want to study the book of Acts. So I type in the word Acts, A-C-T-S. Now it's going to find not just the book of Acts, but anything that was a title of Acts. So we're going to have to sort of adjust it just a bit once I do the search. But if I search Acts here, it's going to tell the Eastons and Jamison Fawcett Brown and Adam Clark and my ESV notes all to go to Acts. So let's see what happens if I hit return. So we have the Acts of the Apostles. How many times? Okay, that's what I'm looking for. There it is. Well, no, ISB has Acts here, but it says it's found 48 times. So to get down to the correct Acts of the book Acts, there's Acts of the Apostles, and so that we'll just leave it like that for now. So here I have the Acts of the Apostles. I can keep going down. Acts and Speech, Chronicles of Acts, Historic Acts of Pilate, Acts of Solomon, Chronicle Acts. So you can see, you can go through Acts of Paul, Peter, John, Acts of Thomas, in the Acts, historical Acts, so and so forth, right? But we're going to go back to the Acts of the Apostles. So to do that, it'll be just quicker for me to hit enter again, and then go one down. But look, Easton's went to Acts of the Apostles as well. My ESV notes went to Acts and gives me background information on it. Jamison Fawcett Brown, or Adam Clark went to Acts. Jamison Fawcett Brown went to Acts. They all went to Acts. So let's try another book. Let's type in Nahum. Nahum. Hit enter. Guess what? I'll go there. Every single work goes right with me to whatever I'm studying by just that link command. And so that's my Bible book study. So I've saved that, and that's good. That's what I want. So that's all that I'm going to do in that one. So now I'm going to open up, and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to open up, go to File, and I'm going to open up a new workspace. By the way, while I'm here, what is the difference between a auto session and a workspace? A workspace is just one document, like a Word document. An auto session, it means that, or you can save a session. Let's say you had 5 workspaces open. You can, that's a session when you have 5 things all working together at one time. And so we'll take a look at that. But also, it takes a look at everything I've been doing. So in the past hour, this is what I've done. If I wanted to go back in time to what we were doing just 20 minutes ago, it'll take me back to where we were 20 minutes ago. It remembers it. And I think that's pretty interesting. And it's called the workspace. So we're back to a regular workspace. I'm going to just leave that workspace there since we're here. And I just want to do a few quick things here. So let me go ahead and open up. I'm going to go to my, not my commentaries. I'm going to go down here to my writings. And I'm going to open up my church fathers. So I'm going to open up 3 windows there. And again, I can do this sort of the similar type of a thing. I can maneuver these windows around so that rather than them being all tied together, I can look at 1, 2, and 3. And I can choose one of these, or I can choose a dictionary to be the main leader of that work. But I'm going to choose this one here, and I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to go to titles here, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to hit the L command, link, and I'm going to have it link to the ante-Nicene. No, to the Nicene and post one. There we go. And then I'm going to go here, link. Okay, so now if I'm over here and I type in a title like Grace and hit enter, everything goes to Grace and it shows me how many hits there are. And in each one, I can go down to the next hit down, the next hit down. So I can compare either on a topic like resurrection or forgiveness or grace or what have you, information across all 3 eras of the early church fathers. And so I might want to save this workspace. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say add current workspace. I'm going to call it early fathers. And now that's saved. So now that that's saved, I'm going to leave that there for a second just for fun. I'm going to go up here to my files, and I'm going to open a workspace. I'm going to open up my Bible book studies workspace. And you see that's right on top of it. Whoops. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Yeah, it's right on top of it. Okay. So when I'm here, it didn't open the right thing, did it? It didn't save it. Oh, that's because I went back in time. But let me just set this up real quick. So I'm going to leave the ISB there. Well, yeah. I'll just show you how this works. So if I'm in Acts, I can right click on it and I can do a search and I can search my workspaces. So I could just say, if I was in Jonah, I could right click on Jonah and I can say, I want to search that workspace that's behind me, which is my early fathers. Now watch what happens. It goes to my fathers and finds everything that they have to say on that book of Jonah. But it could be a topic, it could be a book, it could be a person. So that's how workspaces can work together. You can go from one workspace and you can create different ones for different things. And then when you ask it to study on a topic level, on a verse level, if it has anything to offer, contribute with that title, with that word, with that verse, it will. And so you can have them participating in a lot of great ways, which I think is sort of neat. I'm going to go back. I'm going to close this off here. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go. There we go. So there's, remember, the sessions take me back to where I wanted to go, and that's what I wanted to do. So, so that's how that kind of works, simultaneously. Now you could actually have it so that I would have this also link to this window to the ISB, but I can just as easily right click on a word here and then just search that workspace. So that's how that works. Okay, last. I want to, one thing that I think, Linda, did you, the early church fathers, one thing is a PDF that I put together. And that PDF is called Apostolic and Church Fathers. And I just wanted to show you this real quick because now a lot of this I got through Google and AI, but not everything. I have web links here that talk about who the Apostolic Fathers are, who the early church fathers are, ancient Greek philosophy, why it was important. Ask Google these questions, and this is what I came up with. It's pretty amazing to me. Studying the early church fathers, the difference between them, when they were teaching and what they were really noted for in their teaching, because sometimes it's like the baseball card. You don't know a player without the card. You got to sort of know what kind of hitters they were and what they did, their importance. And then down here at the bottom, I have this place called Holy Sojourners, and you can open that up within Accordance, and you can go through it. It gives you some really great information. Let me open that up full. On the church fathers, on each one, if you wanted to ever study their life out a little bit more in detail. So that's a little handout. Now, the one thing that's sort of cool with a handout is, I believe, if you ever decide you want to do it, you can you can copy it. You can create a user tool where you say a new user tool, and you call it whatever you want to. You call 1, 2, 3, and you say okay, and then you just go into it and hit any key on your keyboard, like return, and opens up the text window. And here you can do formatting and linking, but you could paste that PDF. If you copied it and pasted it into here, you could create that that work to be a user tool, just like you see here. They look just like a user tool. And after you get it really adjusted, if you ever want to, after you get it fully adjusted as a user tool, guess what you can do? You can go up here to user tools, and you can say, I'm going to is it merge that, or is it import? Oh, I'm going to import that. And you can import as a PDF, or you can import it to create a new, uh, you can create it. No, it's not merge. What is it? Maybe it's under tools. Tool options. Here we go. That's right. You can convert that to a permanent tool. And I'm going to just do that for fun. So right now it's a user tool. It's not found in my library. But once I have created a user tool with all the links and stuff I want, I can convert it to a permanent tool. Now it's going to say, if you do that, it's no longer going to be under user tool. That's okay, because I got it saved another place. So I say, okay. So now it's not underneath user tools, but it's underneath my library, and it should be underneath, here it is, Apostolic and Church Fathers. It's now a book in my library. I just created a book with a full table of contents that I had made, and it's right there for me. I think that's pretty neat. And so anyways, you have all this information in that handout. Last thing that I want to go over just really quick with you, and that is this web browser. One thing that I do a lot of, and there's always more to get, but I created for studies uh, a, because Accordance allows you to do stuff on the internet, and then have your library um, relate to the words you're looking at on the internet. I created a user tool called my web browser favorite links, and I created a table of contents for it. And in the newsletter that comes out February 1st, I go through a step-by-step procedure on how to create a user tool, web browser uh, user tool. So in this, I've created categories. I have these links that are here. You can go down through it. You can add or whatever. There's Linda said there's a site she likes. Let's go ahead and go there. It's called uh, my my rabbi, my Rabbi Jesus, I think it's called. Let me close out my window here. Come on. Is that what's the name of it, Linda? Is that right? My Rabbi Jesus, I thought it was. Oh, well, I don't hear her, so I don't know what it is. Linda, are you there?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Okay,
Could
what
you,
is that? My Rabbi Jesus, what is it?
our Rabbi Jesus?
Oh,
But I think, oh yeah, so you're showing it.
yeah. Okay, so let's say that this is a site that I want to add over here. I would highlight and copy the URL. I would find out where maybe I would want to create an area called Jewish works or whatever. And you can put it in, I'm going to put it down here at the bottom as an additional site. So all I do is I go into here and I'm going to go right there. I hit enter and it opens up a space in my text editor. And I'm going to put our rabbi Jesus, and then I'm going to paste the URL. And that's all I have to do. Then I have to update it. It's going to automatically recognize it. Close this out. So even if this wasn't open, I can now click on that and it'll open to that. And I can look at Matthew 8, but if I'm down here and I'm looking at something I want information on, let's say I want information on repent. I can right click on repent and now I can search on repent. How about through my early church fathers workspace? Yeah, let's do that. Ha! Look at that. It did it. So you see, even though I'm on the internet, I can have it search through an entirely different workspace or through a dictionary or what have you. So anyway, all that to say is you can have a lot of fun creating all sorts of wonderful places to go to, like best commentaries. How do I know what are good commentaries and how to use them and so forth and so on. So again, this Accordance has a relationship with the web browser. And so by creating a web browser user tool, I have access to lots of wonderful things. There's so many in here that are my favorites, but my useful tools, helpful sites, like I don't know, there's a free word processor, there's the rhyme zone. So if you're trying to rhyme words with one another, or you're a pastor, you're looking for what word rhymes with repent, you could go and do that. That's a good thing. And one other thing that I didn't show you, but I need to show you real quick. If you're in a work and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back up here to auto session, go get back to here. So if I'm in a work and I highlight something and I right-click on it, I can copy it as citation. I just wanted to show you this because if you're in school, this is important. So if you're copying materials for a paper, doesn't matter whether you're in a dictionary, in the early church fathers, you're in writings, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you go to your word processor, and I'm using Word, and you paste it, if you copy with citation and you paste it, it puts the one there and it gives you your footnote down at the bottom. So then I'm going to go on, I'm going to copy something else. Let's copy this. Let's just change it to a different book. So grace. Let's go here. Let's go to a sermon, the wheat and the tares. And I go through here and I copy this, and I'm going to go down here. Let's see what I'm copying here. Got a thing in the way. Copy as citation. Remember, in part one, we showed you that you can set up Turabian, SBL footnoting, Chicago style footnoting, however you want to do it. I'm going to copy with citation. Go to my word processor. And remember, there's one. If I now paste this in, it'll paste it in with two, and it footnotes it for me. So the program is really good also if you're going to be working on creating papers and research and knowing where the information came from. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. Well, I'm out of time. I really appreciate your patience tonight and sticking with me. I hope this was helpful and useful, and that you will get to really do more within the program and enjoy it. I might do one more session in a couple weeks. I teach at a college, and for those that are my students, it's great to have you here at the webinar tonight. But a lot of you that are in my class might have purchased what is called the English Specialty Starter. And so I might just do a video webinar class on that to go in. Some other things that we didn't talk about tonight would be like doing some really neat word studies that you can do with that English Specialty Starter. So I'll probably set that up with Linda so that we can do that in the future, near future. And but again, this Heritage of Faith collection, oh man, it teaches us so much if we would just take the time to understand what we've lost over centuries of being able to think logically and deeply and know how to argue, but not in a confrontational way, but in a way that brings light into the lives of people. And I think that's something that it's fun that these influencers from the apostolic fathers to people that a century ago that were writing to read what they had to say in their faith and just be encouraged by their faith and encouraged by their minds and encouraged by their lifestyles. And so, yeah, great collection. So with that, Linda, we can pause the recording if we haven't already, and I'll take questions.